Good day, and welcome to the Lillyroddyshow, coming to you from the LRS studios here in Houston, Texas. Thank you so much for joining me this week as we take a look at what's going on for October the 4th through October the 10th, 2015. We're finally getting some cooler temperatures here in Houston, and we are all grateful for that. I hope you've been able to get out and enjoy the weather. And speaking of weather, at the time of this recording, we're looking at two storms approaching the east coast of the United States. Excuse me. I think we're likely to have some very strong weather patterns with the planets Mars and Venus moving through Virgo and making contact with Neptune. The last time we had those big rains here in Houston and flooding along the bayou was when Mars was making contact with Neptune one weekend. That was the worst part of the flooding. And then the following weekend, the Sun made contact with Neptune again, producing some pretty heavy downpours. One of the reasons that Houston's chart is so triggered by these contacts with the planets to Neptune is that Houston is having a big Neptune transit, and that increases the potentiality of stormy weather. We also have a strong natal Neptune in the Houston's chart, which is an indication of the watery, swampy area that we live in, as well as the huge medical center, the gas and oil industry that exists here. Those all fall under the rulership of Neptune. In the USA chart, we have Neptune at 22 degrees Virgo. Now, Jupiter will be at 22 degrees Virgo, opposing Neptune in the middle of December of this year, 2015. This could be a time of especially bad weather here in the USA. We just have to wait and see how all of that develops. So with those two storms currently in the Atlantic Ocean, along the USA East Coast, there are likely to be some very strong winds, and the storms will build Monday, Tuesday, and the 5th and 6th of this week. So watch out for those storms. If you would like to contact me for a personal session or to ask a question, you can always reach me at Lillyroddyshow at AOL.com, Lillyroddyshow.com, and of course find us on Twitter, Pinterest, and Facebook. And if you haven't, please take time to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Let's take a look at the upcoming week. We're a lot more likely to have more activity in the sky this week because we have more planetary activity rather than just our lunar transits guiding our day. We have two long void moons, very strong planetary aspects on the 6th, Venus entering Virgo on the 8th, Mercury going stationary direct on the 9th, and Venus squaring Saturn on Saturn Day just for this week. I can tell you that some of these patterns continue through next week as well. Let's look at some of the details. Let's first start with our two long void moons. The first moon is on October the 5th, and it encompasses the entire day. Now that's Monday. Technically, the moon is void from 6:04 a.m. on Monday until Tuesday, October the 6th at 3:31 a.m. That's about a 21-hour void moon. This may make Monday, the 5th, sort of a washout, and especially with some of the aspects on Tuesday, the 6th, may give the week a very slow start. Our other void moon occurs on Wednesday late in the afternoon at 4:10 p.m. until Thursday at October the 8th at 2:50 p.m. The good thing about this particular long void time is that we have good time in the early part of the day and then time available on the following day, so that'll help us to stick to our agendas. Otherwise, during the void moons, you're going to just have to stay more focused on how you feel about things and what really drives you. And if you want to know more about the void moon, last week's show, I focused more on those void moons. So if you want to reference that show on void moons, that's the show I did on September the 27th through October the 3rd, 2015, just the show from last week. Let's focus some on Tuesday, October the 6th. On Tuesday, we have 3 strong planetary aspects exclusive of the moon's activity. In the morning, we have Sun squaring Pluto at 9:12 a.m., Mercury sextiling Saturn at 6 p.m., and Mars opposing Neptune at 9:53 p.m. And since all of these aspects have been affecting us for 2 to 3 days prior to the 6th, and at least they'll be in effect for a couple of more days, this can really put us in a funky mood. Let's start with Sun squaring Pluto and look at this. This can easily create unsettling energies where we feel challenged by others, or that we may have to prove or validate our credibility. It will be hard for us to ignore the subtle swipes or the snarky remarks. Choose your battles carefully. The next aspect on Tuesday is Mercury sextile Saturn at 6 p.m. Now this is a more rational approach to life when these 2 planets combine. And certainly this aspect will help us to keep a clear perspective on what our long-term goals are so we don't sabotage ourselves. This aspect does bring some sense of stability during the day. And then the final aspect on Tuesday is Mars opposing Neptune. This aspect is by far the strongest influence on our day. And usually when I see these contacts, I refer to these as mental health days. Mars and Neptune are not the easiest of energies to integrate, since the planets both represent extremely different ideas. Mars represents the self, while Neptune represents the larger whole, the sense of spirit, goddess, God, all these sort of large concepts. So the planet of individuality and the planet of wholeness are sort of opposing each other. This contact usually turns up our psychic sensitivity and makes us all want to retreat from conflicts or the harsh realities of the life we have chosen. On the other hand, it can make people who are very internally very restless and potentially explosive. I want to point out that in the USA chart we have Mars square Neptune, and with this Mars-Neptune opposition taking place in the sky, this could make the whole country feel ill at ease or that we were going to be attacked. As I'd said earlier, here in Houston, this may stimulate a change in our weather patterns. Personally, I would want to make sure that on Tuesday I wasn't overcommitted. Mars-Neptune would work better as a time to retreat, meditate, do some yoga, or enjoy a bottle of wine with that special someone. Choose your company carefully today with this strong Neptune aspect. On Thursday, October the 8th, Venus enters Virgo. Overall, this should be a better time for relationships and money for those Virgos. This will help us to take a more critical and discerning look at the daily functions of our relationships. Venus in Virgo may be more analytical, but she will still retain her passion. I have to have a little water. Okay. October the 9th, Friday. Mercury goes stationary direct at 9:58 a.m. Now, this is the day that Mercury goes direct. However, Mercury is at its slowest pace. This is why we have to wait until about the 15th of October before Mercury is back up to its normal speed. Many people think that Mercury retrograde starts on the stationary retrograde date and ends on the stationary direct date. An example of this is that Mercury went stationary retrograde on September 17th of 2015, and goes stationary direct on October the 9th, 2015. Many people think that they can start their project on September the 16th, the day before Mercury goes stationary retrograde, or conversely on October 10th, when Mercury is just stationary direct. And this is definitely not true. On those stationary direct or retrograde days, the planet is technically not moving from our geocentric perspective, and therefore the retrograde effects are at their strongest. This is why I always say that it's best to give yourself 3 or 4 days before the stationary retrograde point, or 3 to 4 days after the stationary direct point, to be safe operating under Mercury's influences. And on October 10th, Sunday, Venus squares Saturn at 7:31 p.m. Personal desire and frugality come into conflict. Basically, this is just not a great aspect. It can make us feel down, melancholy, depressed about our economic future, or hopeless about our relationships, and is ready to throw in the towel. We don't have to look at it that way. We can look at it as a way to redefine and what's important to us personally in our relationships, and to have our partner confirm that through a stronger sense of commitment and clarity about the direction the relationship needs to go. So it doesn't necessarily mean that things aren't particularly good. We're just in a more melancholy or a bit negative tone. And definitely, this is not a good evening for a date or any kind of social activity. I want to bring up something that's being reactivated, and that is the long-term Uranus-Pluto square I've been talking about since 2008. Although the last perfection of the aspect was in March 17th of this year, Uranus and Pluto will be close enough to create some of the unsettling energies that has produced really since 2008. So we're going to have some of this Uranus-Pluto energy, this unsettled energy, at the end of December 2015 and the beginning of January 2016. With these two planets lining up, but not exactly square, will be more triggered as the planets move through Libra in October and November, and then again generally as the planets move into Capricorn at the end of December and into January 2016. This has been an especially long planetary alignment. Pluto in Capricorn has represented the tearing down or the crumbling of existing governments and heads of states, and them trying to hold on to power until they have no choice but to give in. Uranus's job has been the stimulation of people that feel repressed, are trapped, or underrepresented as individuals. When these two planets combine, they always challenge the existing state of affairs. Remember that these two planets were conjunct, Uranus and Pluto, in the mid to late 60s when the USA was having horrible race riots and we were enmeshed in Vietnam. Nothing similar to that going on today. On a more personal level, this Uranus-Pluto square has created economic hardship for people all over the planet. Things fell out of control. We do not know who to trust. These are the final months of this energy. If you have areas of your life that you must tear down and rejuvenate, this is your last encounter with these two planets for approximately the next 40 years. What, of course, will be replacing that will be our focus on the ongoing T-square with Saturn in Sagittarius, Jupiter in Virgo, and Neptune in Pisces. This alignment will bring up different events for us to focus on and to integrate into our own systems. The mutable signs, Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces, will be the most affected by this ongoing T-square through the end of August next year. This will continue to have an effect on gas and oil prices, immigration issues, religion and dogmatic issues, education policies, policing the police, and a special emphasis on our crumbling infrastructure, especially related to transportation and communication systems. So there are plenty of things to keep us busy in the upcoming year of 2016. And hopefully with astrology, we'll be able to explore and understand the dynamics of change that are going on. And as always, thank you for joining me this week as we have looked at the week of October the 4th through the 10th, 2015. Please join us next week as we look at October 11th through the 17th, 2015. This is the Lilly Roddy Show, coming to you from the LRS studios here in Houston, Texas, reminding you to keep those stars in your eyes. Bye-bye.